This is the Fujifilm X-T50. Some have dubbed this the Mini X-T5. Others have dubbed this the interchangeable lens X100vi. And I'm here to tell you that it is a great camera. I think the biggest thing about this camera is that it came out of necessity. There are people who are fighting for their lives to get an X100vi, and I'm one of them. I've had a X100vi on pre-order for 5 months now. When they announced this, it was about, I want to say 3 months after the X100vi announcement. X100vi was in February. I believe this one was in May, a couple months after. I've been using this for about a month, a little over a month actually at this point, and I love it. I bought it because I think where I am as a photographer, I wanted something with interchangeable lenses. Everybody wants this camera, the hype train of the X100vi. And Fujifilm has the X-T5, which has the same sensor as the X100vi, which has the same sensor as the X-T50. You can't go wrong with any of those three cameras, let's put it that way. I think from a pricing standpoint, they all fall very close to each other, which makes it a difficult decision to pick a camera that works best for your budget. I think each one has its strength. I bought this camera primarily because an X-T50 fell in between the price range of an X-T5. X-T5, I believe, with a kit lens can start around like $2,000. And X100vi starts at $1,599, I believe, in the US, which is still expensive. And then this, for the body, $1,399. And with the kit lens, it came out to, I think, $1,799. Either way, let's put it this way. You're going to be spending a lot of money on any of those cameras. If you were invested in buying an X100vi and you're thinking about getting an X-T50, I would say do it. The X-T50 is a little bit more readily available. You might have to fight or look around for... Don't fight anyone. You might have to look around a little bit for the colorway that you want. That charcoal silver color seems to be the most popular out of them because it's a new color. I went with silver because I like the color contrast between the black and the silver aluminum. And I did get the 16-50 lens. It's very expensive, the lens. Do save a couple $100 by buying the lens with the camera. And I, again, coming from the standpoint of wanting the X100vi, was ready to just go in on buying the pancake lens, the 27mm lens, and call it a day. However, for the versatility of it, I'm glad that I picked up the 16-50mm lens, primarily because I think that I have the use case of not knowing exactly what I'm going to be shooting. And on top of that, you can change this to whatever you want. The 27mm pancake lens, which is kind of hard to get at the moment as well. These run for $399. It's a great lens if you're doing primarily photography. It's so small. I mean, look at the size comparison wise between these two. It is tiny. I think that when you're considering a X-T50 and you really wanted an X100vi, the pancake lens, truthfully, is a good compromise. Your overall weight and size really just dipped. It is so small and compact and lightweight that if you did want to use this as just your carry, it's a good size and a good fit to just throw in a bag and carry around. Is it as small as the X100vi? I don't think so. I've seen some videos and sample photos that compare the two body sizes. In the end, I do think that the X100vi is going to be smaller just by overall mass. So that's my standpoint on why I went with an X-T50. And I think that the compromise for getting the X-T50 over an X100vi is really you're getting the extra functionality of an interchangeable lens system. You have a full arsenal of different lenses that you can use that will either enhance what you wanted to do with it or even open up a different realm of opportunity for different shooting styles that you maybe didn't think that you wanted to do. Jumping off of that, one of the main reasons that I went with a Fujifilm camera was the film simulations. Some people have the hot take of film simulations are just filters that they're putting on your photos, and I'm here to tell you they are not. they are baked into the JPEGs that you take. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the film simulation dial. The film simulation dial had mixed reactions. I will say that I did have a little bit of a struggle with it in the beginning because I was learning Fujifilm for the first time. Not having an ISO dial kind of threw me for a loop. It's not to say that you can't adjust the ISO. They make it very easy to adjust the ISO on this camera. They assign it to the front command dial. The problem with that is that the front command dial is really easy to hit accidentally. I found myself shooting with this camera and I would be taking a photo. I had it all set, I framed and ready to go. I would accidentally hit the front command dial, rotating it just by 1 or 2. It would change the ISO. And I like to leave the ISO in automatic and then have it as like a top range of about 6400. So for me, it was really hard to adapt to having the ISO on the front command dial, primarily because it was really easy to hit. It would throw itself out of automatic and it was kind of annoying, to be completely honest, and I kind of wish I just had it on one of the top command dials. With that being said though, I did find a workaround to this. I did set the back command dial to ISO. It replaced the focus check, so you could hit the back command dial. Usually what it would do, it would punch in on the screen and would give you a focus check, which is really helpful for when you're manually focusing, but I don't manually focus too often. So I replaced the back command dial with a press in, and that would allow me to adjust the ISO versus the front command dial being set to just the ISO. And truthfully, it's kind of redundant. If you set the film dial to C, you can adjust the film simulation with the front command dial, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. It's good for like if you wanted to like quickly look and try a couple different film simulations, but then it's just super redundant to have all the film simulations at the top dial. And as I get into recipes, I'll also tell you something about the film dial that doesn't help. It's personal preference though. I don't know if you would prefer using the front command dial, if you want to use the film simulation dial. It's really personal preference. But like I said, I did find it a little redundant and I did remove it. So my front dial, the front command dial, really doesn't do much for me anymore. It does have options, like you could put the exposure compensation to there, you can put kind of a bunch of other things, but for the lenses that I'm using, the front command dial seems to be the most redundant button on this camera. And the only other like settings that I have changed on this camera is that the autofocus on button, I changed to autofocus lock. I think that being able to have something set to focus and then when you push down halfway on the shutter button, it's locked. I did find that when I wanted things to come into frame, I didn't want to have to constantly hold down on the shutter button, but I rather have it be subject be blurry, and then let's say if like I'm taking a video, I'll lock the autofocus, and so when that subject starts to move into frame, they also come into focus. The other change that I did make on this was that I assigned the top quick, I don't even know what you call this button here, this little quick action button. I did change to automatically start recording a video, which was super helpful. I have not used this a ton for video, and the reason being is that I usually have this Fujifilm 27mm lens on. Focus motor on this is so loud. It's not the fastest to focus, but however, it is, like I said, a really compact lens. But just know that the focus sound is loud. And if you're using the internal microphones on this, it will pick up the sound of the camera focusing. On that note, so I said we were going to transition over to film recipes, and I want to get back into the film simulation dial. And I said that I'd leave the film simulation dial at C for a reason. And it's because when I put in and program a film recipe to this camera, the film simulation dial, if you program a recipe with a specific film simulation and your film dial is in a different film simulation than C, and it's different than the one that's in that recipe, I found that it did change the film simulation in the custom setting, which can ruin the film simulation that you're using. The most obvious one is that, like, if you're taking a black and white photo and you have it set to a black and white film simulation, and then you jump into a film recipe, and let's say it's color, then you're going to take a photo and your photo is going to be black and white with whatever custom settings that you had set into that film recipe. I have not found a way around this. It might be possible to set the custom setting to lock and not be changed. However, I did find it to be a little bit weird, and it always had me checking to make sure the film simulation dial was at C. That's my 1 month kind of update on this camera. This isn't a technical review by any means. If you want to see some of the photos, you can check me out at Deep Space Captures. I'm sharing a bunch of photos that I took on Instagram and Threads, and you can check out some sample images. A lot of them that I have uploaded there are from this camera with various different lenses that I'm using. I think that as I start to use this camera more, I'll learn more about how these settings work. I will say, as a first-time Fujifilm user, there's a lot to take in, a lot to learn. And as someone who hasn't used a primary camera in about 10 years, just relearning photography on this camera is a little difficult. And it really comes down to that ISO dial was vital. And assigning it to the back command dial was definitely helpful. But I will say that it took me a month to figure out what settings I like to use. I will say, and I have to ask, if you're a Fujifilm user and you're using an X-T50 or an X-T5 or an X100vi, leave a comment as to what things that you've changed on your camera to work with the way that you take photos. I know everybody's different, so everyone has a different setup for their camera. If you were to give advice to any beginner using a Fujifilm, leave a comment as to what advice you would give them. That's a quick update. I will be making more videos about it. If you have any questions or want me to cover anything in a video, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you like and subscribe so you know that when I upload a new video, it comes directly to your inbox. It's the best way to help support me on this journey of making new videos. And if you like this video, share it with your friends and share it with the Fujifilm community. The Fujifilm community is like spectacular. And if you're not on Threads, you should join us on Threads, because I haven't had so much community engagement on any social platform like I have on Threads. The Fujifilm community, and on Reddit as well, is really great. So I will say also, if you're thinking about getting a Fujifilm camera and you watched this video trying to learn something, sorry, this is my brain dump, so I really don't have a cohesive video of 1, 2, 3 of what I like or dislike. It's just my train of thought as to what it's like using this camera. But if you have specific questions, let me know. But like I said, reach out to the community, reach out to me directly here. You can reach out to me on Threads, Instagram, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm not the most technical person when it comes to cameras. You hand me a phone or a computer and I'll tell you everything you need to know about it. But as for cameras, this is kind of a new world for me, especially in this modern era. It's way different than what it was 10 years ago. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you next time. Peace.